Good morning, everybody. Yes, I give thanks for Brother David and Brother Howard, and for my brother over here, and for all the presenters, because to tell you the truth, I didn't have the desire to come.
And to your wife who brought you here.
Yes, I give thanks to my wife, because my wife said, no, we have to go. I said, why must I go 50, 60, 70 miles to go hear something when I'm having a book right here, so? Why can't I go down on my knee and say, God, reveal the truth to me? Why I have to go 60 miles to go listen to Brother David and Brother Howard? We can't go on my knee and get the message. And she said, no, Jerome, it's not about that, it's about the fellowship. So I'm saying, okay, wife, I love you, I'm going to give you your heart desire. So I'm here. And I have not regretted that I am here, because the message from Brother Howard and Brother David and from Ken blew my mind. My brother over here, Coach, also gave the latest one. Wow. All of them, with no doubt, are remarkable messages. So I thank God that I was inspired by my wife to come, because I have no regrets. I think it's worth the 70 or the 80 miles. Yes. No problem. Yes. Starting with Brother. Okay. Starting with Brother David. Brother David mentioned yesterday that the Open Face Fellowship, which was the Restoration Ministry, have changed their name and has now registered the organization with a governmental entity, right? I have been listening to Brother David for many years, and I have a DVD or something with Brother David licking out 100 against people or churches that are joining governmental entities. So when I hear Brother David came up here and said, boy, you know, we really had to join. I'm like, what? Brother David, are you like the Adventist church? I have a friend named Dr. Chang. Dr. Chang bring me like 2,000 Sunday law books in a big box, right? And he said, Jerome, go and give them out. And I give out Sunday law books. They leave some churches in the country, and I say, Brother Logan, what do you have for us today? They got wow, some Sunday law book. I give out Sunday law books to make you go no more Sunday law book. And then I'm hearing that the Adventist church is bowing to the same thing where them is preaching. So I'm saying, what the hell is going on here? So I'm saying, no, church. That's why I have faith in Brother David, who holds up. And then I come here. Brother David say, oh, we have to join. What? Brother David, please explain to me what is going on. That's the first question.
I appreciate Brother Jerome. It's 3 times.
The pay system is up.
Okay, I appreciate Brother Jerome. Always straight to the point. Even if he puts you a little bit on the spot. Yeah, well, the honest truth is that sometimes sometimes motive and there are nuances of differences that make a lot of difference. We actually registered as a non-profit organization, not as a church. Non-profit organizations are organizations that function and they are not taxed, because they are supposed to be charitable organizations that are working for the good of the society. So because of that, the government allows you to function, to collect funds, and to operate in whatever area your organization operates in. And the main issue that we had was
scamming.
Yeah, you know that what is going on in Jamaica. And so anybody who is handling funds that comes through the public means, they're under scrutiny. My problem is that one day government agencies could come to the ministry and you could see a big thing in the newspaper about our ministry operating this way and or that we have no accountability, and you know that so the idea is that when churches register, the aim is to become
transparent.
Yeah, and I don't just mean from the point of view of most churches are seeking to build an organization. They are seeking to make a name. In the case of Adventism, the Catholic Church, most of these churches, they have this feeling that they are exclusively God's instrument. And so they register as a means of establishing an entity. We registered as a non-profit organization strictly because of a practical reason. We don't have an aim to build a denomination. Okay? But it's either we stop functioning or we register as a non-profit organization. Now, the reality of it is like, we know that there's coming the mark of the beast. And we see steps being put in place to implement the mark. But it's not yet the mark. For example, all of us had to get a TRA, everybody in Jamaica. Then your driver's license became a little more, got a little more information. Then your passport now has to have the little chip on it. And then right now they're bringing out the national ID card, which a lot of Jamaicans are tentative about, but they're going to put in like eyes, scan, fingerprints, everything, and all of us know exactly where it's going. So you ask the question, what should we do? And there are some people who say, no, I'm not thinking, but then you won't be able to drive a car, pay taxes, you won't be able to do any business at any government office, and maybe you won't be able to have a bank account. So you ask yourself the question, is this the final turning point? Or can I go along with this until it comes to the place where there's a final turning point? There's a principle that the more you compromise, the easier it is to compromise afterwards. But you ask, is it a compromise? Because compromise is when you begin to scar your conscience. So if something is required and it doesn't require to scar your conscience, you think of your motives, then it may be prudent to go along with that. When you come to the point where it becomes a matter of conscience, then you have to take a stand. I think in terms of our registration, we discussed it and we believe that it's not yet the place where we should put down roots and say, no, we can't go. You know, I am cautious, knowing the history of denominationalism. I have been from the beginning, and I think all of us are cautious about taking steps to become a denomination. Because we are not God's church. We're just a small part of that huge body. And we don't believe in denominationalism. This is why we registered as a non-profit organization. And if you look at they asked us carefully to put down the different activities we would be involved in. And we were careful to put in things like charitable work and helping poor people, other things. So we are more like a non-profit organization without a church emphasis.
I want to add something to, since just before they say. I was just saying, I just wanted to add the fact that because we get donations from overseas and we send a receipt on the restoration ministry, then the people who gets the receipt claims back from the government for charity. So the IRS calls the Jamaican government and says, who is restoration ministry? And the government says, I'll tell you. We don't have that registration here. Nobody's registered under that name. So, interesting that the IRS wrote to David, the IRS, it's interesting. from the United States wrote to a citizen of another country and asked to declare assets. Does that make sense to you? Does that make sense? That does make sense. That is a breach, right? So you said, as a citizen, you're writing from another country and writing to a citizen and said, declare. That doesn't make sense, right? When he spoke to the bank, and the bank says, ignore the letter. And he did, but then you realize things are tightening up and you say, what is this? Why would the IRS write a letter to a person in another country to declare? I mean, that's illegal, right? Right. So I'm saying, I'm just saying, when you look at things and you see the perspective and where things are going, I mean, you know, it's best to say, do what is right, which is not illegal. Do what is right, which is not against principle. Do what is right, which is not against your conscience, right? For the sake of the gospel. Right.
Perfect. Understood. Let's a springboard off of that. A springboard.
Yeah, so you may have come up here and because I'm going to sit down. I've said something.
No, we wanted to ask something.
Yeah.
You want to ask her to say something?
Say something.
You want to say something, so let him come and say.
Oh, yeah.
In contribution to what you have been saying. I'm only saying this so as to help the brethren to understand also why the route has to be taken. Because for us, for example, when we send our tithes over, it's not just the organization, it's not just the restriction ministry which is questioned, we are also questioned. Every time I go to the office to say I would like to send this amount to this person, they ask me, how do you know the person? How long do you know the person for? We have to do a scan, a face scan, and take a picture every time we do it before it can be released again. Actually, many times they have to call me back and say, we didn't go through, and I say, oh, we didn't do that first step. There are so many steps we have to go through to do this.
And that's all data. That's all data being collected to put in a database
exactly.
that determines certain things.
Exactly, unless we in turn can't in any way contribute to the ministry.
Okay.
So there is that isn't it.
Thank you, brother. Brother Ted.
Yes, I just want to add something.
If it's a point you're making, come up here. Ted.
I'm Logan.
No, the camera.
We're now in international grounds. We're standing on international
I wanted
grounds.
to add something to what you said,
Yes.
because of the knowledge that I have. The 1940 Companies Act, in general, aligns itself with the Constitution, but there are different subheadings, and they take care of a number of different organizations. For example, yours would differ considerably from a limited liability company.
No, but they actually say we have to put the name limited on our name.
They said that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the amendments has brought it to that, but once upon a time, they're just a church organization, operating as a non-profit organization. But whatever that is, I do know that the point I want to make is that in the case of, for example, bankruptcy and having to face a court of law, you are not subjected to the severity as it would be in the case of a limited liability company.
Okay.
Thanks.
Well. Okay. Yes,
Jesus was asked a question, and he held up a coin and said, whose picture is on this? And he said, render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and render unto God the things that are God's.
Thank you, Papa. Yes. All right. This is very interesting. I am not a person who understands all of these governmental issues. I am a simple person who read my Bible and I link up with my family. Brother David is my spiritual family, and I have some other brethren. So I am not really a person who is in the system per se, or even try to understand it in any way. So thank you very much for taking the time to explain these things to me, right? And I'm satisfied with the answer. Thank you very much. Pertaining to Brother Howard, you were mentioning you were making a presentation and you were saying that, yes, in the beginning, there was a curse and it caused mankind to have something said by God, you're going to have to, by the sweat of your brow, you're going to have to work for a living. Right? But Christ has come down and he has brought us back to it, the original thing that God wants, and therefore the work principle is not what God wants, but what he really wants is for us to be in connection with him, which I am one of these persons that was blown away by that, because my life is something similar to these things. I haven't worked for many years, and the time when I wasn't working was when I got financially beneficial. When I wasn't working. So when he said that, I was like, whoa, this is a truth. And there is a next time in my life when I had 3 jobs. I worked in the morning, I worked in the afternoon, and I worked at night. Right? And all of that energy and time came to naught. Right? So I was like, Brother Howard, wow, where did this message come from? But while meditating on it for, in the night, I'm praying and say, is this what you want, God? I remembered that once upon a time in my whirlwind days, God sent this woman to me who people would say is a woman of an unsound mind. And she said to me, read 2 Thessalonians 3 chapter 6. And I'm like, my friend, hey, woman, move from us and take up some stones. You got all that here, man. Right? And although I did that, I went inside. Those times I used to be a DJ. I used to DJ on Black Star and some other sound systems. And I went in my bathroom. I was going to DJ that night and went to my bathroom. I was holding a bath. And all was in my mind is 2 Thessalonians 3 chapter 6. I'm like, turn on the water, hide and say, wash this up. I'm like, wash that. And it couldn't come out of my mind. When I went to the dance and I held the mic and I was DJing, all was in my mind, 2 Thessalonians 3 chapter 6. When I put on the mic and I get my pay and I took a taxi to go home and I lied on bed at home, 2 Thessalonians 3 chapter 6. I said, what the hell is this? So I said to my mommy, you have a Bible? And she said, yes. So I said, let me a Bible. And I remember it was a living Bible. And she gave the Bible to me. And I looked at 2 Thessalonians chapter 3, verses chapter 6. And I read it once. I read it once. And I read that once about 25 years ago. I am 50, how much now? 51 years old. And I have not forgotten it from that one time when I read it. It says, in the Living Bible, it says, now here is a command given in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Stay away from all Christians who spend their days in laziness and does not stick to the hard work that we have set up for you, because you never saw Christ and his disciples loafing. They worked hard day and night for the money that they needed to live on. And it wasn't that they never have power to tell the people to feed them, but they wanted to show the people first time how you must work for your living. And even while we were still there with you, we gave you this rule: he who does not work shall not eat. Yet still, we hear that some of you are spending your days in laziness and refusing to work. In the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, we appeal to such people and tell them to quiet down and get to work. Anyone who refuses to do what we say in this letter Stay away from him. But don't think of him as an enemy. But talk to him as a brother who needs to be warned. No, that woman of unsound mind. I didn't memorize it. Just I'm telling you, I read it once and I can't forget it till now, 20 years after. That's what I'm telling you. The King James said it in a different way. The King James used the word disorderly. Right? And busybody. Right? But that is what came to me when I was asking God, is what Howard's saying right? So why is it that Paul, after Christ's death, is saying that you must work for your living, and he who does not work shall not eat? So I'm saying, yes, Brother Howard, what you have said is a description of my life. And some of the time I wasn't kind of proud of it because some people say, why the lazy men just want to sit down and collect, you know, and work. You understand? So I wasn't even proud of it. So when I heard Brother Howard say, well, I said, you know what? No, we have reason to say, God taught me. But that scripture came up. So I wanted to ask, Brother Howard,
Yes.
how do you synchronize
And balance.
and balance Paul saying, work, and if you don't work, something is wrong with that?
All right, I want to just mention what Gregory shared this morning, and that was really, were you blessed by that presentation?
Yes,
Now,
that's amazing.
you can work as a slave, or you can work as a missionary, right? So what was Paul talking about? Working as a slave or working as a missionary? Now Paul also says that the workman is worthy of his iron. Isn't that right? Now, here's something I think which is a punchline that I never mentioned. Ken mentioned it to me afterwards. But think about this. I believe God is doing something because guess what? In just a short while, the mark of the beast is going to be implemented. And the Bible tells us clearly that we will not be able to buy or sell. In other words, the survival of every Christian is going to be cut off. How do you manage then? Because if you are not totally dependent on God now, will you be then? No, you'll say you have to. But I guess it's going to be the reason why people begin to compromise. Because you don't know how to live just trusting God and depending on Him. So when you're in a crisis, see, the slave, because the slave works to protect self, and the missionary works to protect God, the challenge will be, when that time comes around, how do you deal with it? Now, I'm saying, Paul's idea is, look, do something. Whether the slave is talking to or the missionary is saying, work. Don't you agree? Now, my point is not that we don't work. My point is what? What was the point that we were trying to make? We work, but you're not working for profit. You're not working for benefit because that is already given. It's supplied. In other words, when the disciples said, lo, we left all. Did they leave all and sit down and say, what, you know, I just go real cool out because Jesus is taking care. No, they were busy, they were working, and Jesus said, did you lack anything? So the point is, somebody else provides.
Who you work with.
It's who you work with, and somebody else provides for you, right? That's the point. And I hope that's clear.
Well, I didn't expect anything less. I mean, I didn't expect Brother Howard to like, oh, Brother Jerome, I was wrong. You brought me to a place that I realized. I expected him to give me the explanation because, you know. But I must say that, yes, Brother Howard, I realize that because most of my experience is that when I was on missionary work for the Lord blessed me in a special way. My life is a miracle. You understand? How I got married to my wife, how everything, all of my experience is a miracle from where I'm coming from. You can ask Brother David, because Brother David was even somebody who said, when he heard that I was getting married to Anne, he was like, Anne, you better be careful. Of that guy, you know what I'm saying? At Andrews, hospital at Andrew's church that I go to, like, I developed a character that people was like, when they see me, like, and Dr. Stern, who is a very good friend of mine, he was the only one that believed that I really has changed. You understand? And he stood up for me. Everybody else was like, him still this, him still that, him is this and him is that. And Dr. Stern said, no, he's the changed man. I remember once, my mother was like, Jerome, I cannot take this anymore, you have to go. And Dr. Stern came to my house and spoke to my mother. No, the scriptures say when your mother and your father are forsaken, the Lord will take you up. Dr. Stern was a representation of the Lord. Well, I must confess to you that even while I was a Christian, I still got weak and went back and smoked. Right? And my mother said to Dr. Stern, Dr. Stern, this one, every night you round the back of smoke. And Dr. Stern said, smoking is not a good habit, not an easy habit to overcome, you know. And I was like, even me was sitting there and was like, where this man come from? I thought he was going to say, huh? Yeah? Really? He's still smoking? I thought he was going to, insist. Habit that you overcome easily, you know. And the man backed me up that even after that, in times when I was hiding and I was going to smoke, it's like Dr. Stern, I sit in my mind, not to eat. And I was like, I can't do this thing anymore because he believed in me more than how I believed in myself. Amen. You understand? So I thank God for him. So I'm just saying, I thank you for the opportunity to be able to express myself. I am trying my best, if it is the Lord's way, to conduct my life in the missionary field. I think without choice, I have had a lot of experience of surviving without working. Without choice, I have lived that way for many years. And the Lord has blessed. How I have a car, I don't know. Because I'll never insure it, I'll never buy gas, I'll never pay all of them things, and I don't have a job. My wife, when the car was proposed to me, she was saying, well, Jerome, probably I can pay for half, but I can't. And when the time come for her to put her off, she couldn't find it. So I said, Lord, if you want to buy me a car or your business, but I can't buy a car, I don't have a bank account. And the Lord see the car out there. So these things I'm telling you, when I hear Brother Howard saying it, I know it is real because without even choice, it happened to me. Yes, sir. You understand what I'm saying? So I have been living that way without choice. And guess where I am now? I'm so sorry to tell you.
You start working.
I need a job! That's where I am now. I need a job! I'm so sorry to tell you guys. I'm saying, Brother Howard, I said, hold me back. I said, Jerome, no! You don't need a job around here, Reggie. Look what you have been doing for all those years. You forget already? Yes, I forget already. This is how I know the feebleness of humanity. I see it in myself. You understand what I'm saying? I am like the Israelites. We see Red Sea part. We see a cloud of fire, a carry by night, and a next cloud by day. And we see water come out of rock. We see me get bite by serpent. I'm look on a brand serpent and I get healed. I'm never dead. And yet still, we see manna fall from heaven every day for 40 years. And then when we reach the promised land, we said, wow, we can't make it in a some giant border. What a peace. I am so embarrassed to tell you the truth. So I realized, I used to say, them used to like it crazy. preserve my clothes that it don't rotten. And then I talk about people giant on them. But here I am today in the same exact position. I look work when God has provided the work that I am supposed to do. You understand what I'm saying? First, when I went to Port Maria, I said, Lord, if you want me to work for you, show me what to do. So I went into Port Maria capital, and I said to the merchant, which church in this area is on fire? And they said, why have a man up there named Manados? I'm saying, named Manados? He said, named Manados. I said, why name so? They said, all him preach about, when he was talking, he said, Manados! You understand? So they call him Manados. So I'm saying, okay, so I went to his congregation and I listened and I spent about a week there. And, you know, I was seeing that he was just defending a church setting. You understand? So I said, okay. So I said, Lord bless my brother. You know, I'm trying to go on a mission field. If you find any use for me, I'm available. He didn't really have any use for me. So I said, okay. So I went out into the town and said, which of that church is on fire? And them say, I have a man named Brother Bob, 10 Monday to the preaching. And as he said that, here comes Brother Bob out of high note. Hi brother, how are you? And he said, hi Brother Bob. This guy that I met to this day, I see him as, boy, Brother David, honor and respect to you. Honor and respect. You guys are stalwarts. But Brother Bob, in my heart, he has shown me what I'm supposed to be doing. This brother, he's 70 years old, and he, for the last 50 years of his life, he has been preaching in Port Maria. This man wake up in the morning and say, I cannot eat breakfast until I tell somebody about Jesus Christ. Right? And after he tells somebody about Jesus Christ, then he can eat. And when he go and eat, he say, Logan, I have to go and preach the word. We'll go to the hospital and we'll preach at 4 different places. He goes to church on Sunday. Right? And my brother-in-law said to me, Jerome, you have denied the faith, you know? I'm on Sunday? How you going to do that? And I'm saying, Reggie, no, you don't understand. This man, as his life is given to Christ, he doesn't have a wife. He doesn't have any children. There's a next brother who is his right hand who he goes out and preach with. Once after being with them for about a year or 2, the brother said, you know, Brother Bob, we can open up laundry in Port Maria. There's no laundry here, and we can make some money. And Brother Bob said, where is the Logan? He said, boy, Brother Bob, the word said, preach the gospel in season, out of season. It never said try and make a money. And the guy was kind of, you know, so Brother Bob was like, yes, Brother Logan, that is the thing. So they kept on doing what they were doing. But the point is, his ministry is 7 days a week, and he just preaches Christ. So one time I look at him and I said, Brother Bob, what is the source? How do you survive? Where do you get money from? And he said, Logan, the Lord has provided for me for the last 50 years. And I said, no. So God showed me a human example and said, see that this man has been preaching for 50 years. He never buy nothing yet, he never sell nothing yet, he don't have the source of no money, and God takes care of him. He said when he came to Jamaica, he said, I'm going to get a 1-bedroom house and I'm going to preach the gospel and the Lord will help me to pay my rent. And he said, fortunately, the Lord has given him a 5-bedroom house. And for the last 50 years, he has not missed one rent, one light bill, one water bill. And all him do, morning, noon, and night, is preach the gospel. So I'm like, God, thank you for that example, but I need a job. I am telling you, the Lord is just stuffing it into my face. And when Brother Howard now came with that, it was stop. I said, Logan, stop this jack thing. You don't see where the Lord is putting you. You don't see where you're supposed to go. You want more evidence? I said, Brother Howard, thank you very much. You know, I really appreciate the endorsement, right? So I will ask all congregation, please pray for me that I will go where the Lord sends me, be what I am supposed to be, and stop asking for a job. God bless you.